Hey, it's Mark Ferguson with InvestFourMore, and I'm here to show you how to flip houses with no money, no work, no credit. Basically, you can sit on your couch, make millions, and drive Lamborghinis. No, not really. My name is Mark. I do flip houses, and that is my Lamborghini, but it takes a lot of work and a lot of money to actually do it. So in this video, we're gonna go over what it takes cash-wise to flip a house. So if you're interested in flipping, everyone wants to know what it really takes, not just what they talk about on TV or what some gurus might tell you it takes, with zero money. We'll go into all of that with different financing options too. Hard money, private money, bank money. And this is one of our flips right now. So we'll walk through it real quick and then we'll go over the numbers and give you an idea of what it really takes to flip houses. Now, of course, check out InvestFourMore.com for much more information on our flips, rentals, being an agent, all that great stuff. And we have a free book on there as well as 9 books on Amazon. And we love it if you like our videos to hit the like button and leave us a comment and let us know what you think as well. Now, this house and yard actually works out perfectly for this video because we talk about a lot of the different costs like yard maintenance, utilities, taxes, different things you'll have to pay for. And this yard should be mowed, it should be being maintained, but our guys might be a little bit behind. But that's something that a lot of people don't think about when they flip a house is, hey, not only do you have repairs, this one is pretty much fixed up, but you'll have yard maintenance, you'll have taxes, you'll have insurance to pay, financing costs, carrying costs. There's all kinds of costs that go into a property. And this one is also a perfect example because it has been sitting here repaired for a month or two and we couldn't list it because we had some permit problems with the city. So that there's so many delays that come with flipping houses as well that you don't always have control of, or mistakes that you make. And it's not all easy, peachy, and smooth. So you have to plan for these extra costs that come with flipping as well. And there can be a lot of them, and there can be a lot of time that you don't account for from buy to sell that can really add to the costs as well. So we will go through those costs here next, but just realize flipping houses seems sexy, seems amazing, seems like you make a lot of money, and you can. I've done very well flipping houses. We flipped 15 houses last year, 23 the year before that. But there's a lot of other stuff that goes into it, a lot of money needed. It can be risky, and we'll talk about all of that here coming up. All right, so let's take a look at what actually goes into the cost of buying a flip and how much money you'll need to buy a house flip. Now, first of all, you might notice my colors change a lot as I do these whiteboard videos, and that's because my markers are going dry. I'm giving you so much content, and I'm too cheap, even though I'm making all this money from flips, to buy new markers. Actually, I'm just forgetting to buy them, and honestly, all I have to do is tell someone else to go buy them, and I forget. But anyway, money needed to flip a house. Now, this is kind of tricky because you have other costs that you don't need up front. You might not need them right away. You need them later on. And there's also different loan types like hard money, private money, bank money, which require different amounts as well. So we'll kind of go into that a little bit. There's a lot of content to cover for the house flip money needed. Now, first off, your down payment. Again, this will depend on the type of financing you're using. Obviously, if you're using cash, there's no down payment, but you might need 20%, 10%, 25%, maybe zero, depends on the loan. Interest. So when you get a loan, it's not free. You'll have to pay interest on it. Some loans you pay interest at the very end when you sell, some you pay as you go. These can vary greatly as well. The interest amount can vary greatly too. Closing costs. When you buy a property, you might have title insurance, transfer taxes, closing fees, all kinds of different costs, but they vary in each state. So it's different for where you're at. That can be tricky as well. Carrying costs. One that's forgotten about by a lot of people. While you own this flip, you'll have to pay for electricity, gas, water. You have to mow the lawn, shovel snow, have insurance, pay property taxes. There's a lot of carrying costs that you need money for as well. Of course, repairs. You're gonna have to pay for the repairs while you're fixing up the house. Most contractors will require some money up front while they do the job. When they finish the job, a few, very, very few, will wait till the end of the job to get paid. That's very rare. And then, of course, selling costs, right? Now, agent commissions, title insurance, certain costs will come out of your proceeds, so you don't have to pay it in cash. But it's still important to know what those are. And there might be some you have to pay before you sell the property, like if there's inspection things that need done before you sell it, or certain, like an ILC, You might have to help with some other costs that won't come out of your proceeds, so that's important to know as well. But let's look at these and see what they add up to. All right, so if you're flipping houses, you have multiple options on how to finance them and pay for them. Hard money. Hard money is a company that borrows money from someone else, lends it to somebody else. It's sort of like a bank, but not quite the same. Pretty expensive. Private money, it's like someone you know, a friend, family member, coworker. Sometimes I get private money from people online because they've seen my social media and everything. Bank money, local banks usually will lend on flips. Lower interest rates, but higher down payment usually. A partner, so you can find a partner who can provide all the money. Maybe you split the equity with them. An equity split can save you money up front and maybe be one option to get in with no money or very little money, but you're giving up a big percentage of the profits. And a live and flip, we'll talk about that at the very end. How to actually flip a house, pay no taxes on it, income taxes, and not be rushed, not be in a crazy, frantic situation, and learn to get into the business. One of the best ways to learn how to flip houses. Now, we're going over a ton of information here in a very short time. Most of these topics we talk about, I have other videos that go into more detail for each topic, so I'll try to list those below or search my channel for them, and we can figure those out. And of course, there's cash. I'll put that up here. People always ask me all the time, why don't you use cash when you flip houses? You'd make so much more money. Well, we couldn't do 15 to 26 flips a year if we use cash. We could do like 7, maybe. It's so expensive to flip a house with all cash. And basically you'll see all the costs we have in there. Just add those up and that'll give you how much you need for cash. But I mean, we'd need probably $300,000 per property in cash to flip for cash, where it's much, much less than that if we're using financing. Now for your down payment, that can vary greatly on the type of loan you're getting. So let's say you're buying a property for $200,000. Some markets you can do that now, some markets you can't, some markets you can buy for $50,000. It's gonna be different all over. So if my numbers aren't exactly what happens in your market, you might have to make some adjustments, do some math to figure out what they are in yours. Now, if you're doing cash, obviously that's your down payment, it's $200,000 right there. If you're doing hard money, you might be able to do 10% down, which would be $20,000. Now, if you're doing a bank loan, you might need 25% down or 20% down, which is, $40,000 to $50,000. It ranges greatly. You might be able to do private money, which is 0 down. Maybe not, maybe it is. But you can see the down payment can range greatly depending on the type of financing you're using, from 0, all the way to $50,000. Now the buying costs can vary greatly. Like I said, you might have to pay title insurance in your area, or the seller might pay it. If it's a HUD home, you have to pay title insurance. If it's not a HUD home, maybe you don't have to pay it. It can vary all over, but we'll just say it's about $1,500 here. Maybe you're paying it, maybe not. Closing fees, right? To get the closing done, you might have to pay $500. If you're in an attorney state where you have to have an attorney involved, it might be more. It could be less. There's all kinds of things. You might have an appraisal, which could be $600. Sometimes you need them, sometimes you don't, depending on the financing. There's going to be recording fees. There's going to be all kinds of other miscellaneous fees that might be $500. But basically, the closing costs when you buy the property will vary greatly on the state you're in, the kind of loan you're getting, if you get a loan, but they could be 1% to 4% of the purchase price, which could be $2,000 to $8,000. Sometimes more if you're getting a loan with lots of transfer taxes and different stuff going on in your state. I'm in Colorado. We don't have transfer taxes, lender fees, loan fees. There could be another $3,000 in fees add on for transfer taxes, other fees, depending on the state you're in. Carrying costs. So while you own this property, right, you have to pay for insurance. You have to pay for property taxes. Maybe you're not paying them all the time because some are paid twice a year, some are paid once a year. So maybe you don't need that cash, but maybe you do if you own the property when they have to be paid. You'll have utilities. I think I spelled that right. I'll just make my writing really bad so you can't tell if I spelled it right or not. Insurance, property taxes, utilities, maintenance. You might have HOAs. You might have other costs while you own the property. Now, these all vary and change based on how long you own the property. And I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to do this flip in 3 months, right? I'm going to buy it. I'm going to fix it up in a month. I'm going to sell it. That's usually not how it works. Usually it's like, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to wait 2 or 3 weeks so I can find a contractor. That contractor's going to get delayed. He's going to take 2 months, 3 months to fix it. Then I'm going to get, well, I got to clean it. I got to stage it. Then we're going to list it. We're going to list it. Oh, that contract fell through. We got to list it. So it could take easily 6 to 8 months to sell a flip. You have to factor in it'll take longer than you think because all these costs go up. So if we're talking about 6 months, on this $200,000 flip, maybe this is $1,000, this is $1,000. Again, varies greatly depending on what state you're in, your property taxes. This could be $2,000 depending on where you're at. Maintenance for lawn and different stuff, maybe you're spending $500. HOA, maybe it's $200, maybe it's nothing. But again, here you have $4,000 to $5,000. We'll err on the side of being low, which is not a good idea, but I know you'll do it anyway. $4,000 in carrying costs for this property, and you will need to pay these too. That's money that's coming out of your pocket, so that's money you will need. All right, so we talked about the loan and the down payment, how much that might be, but there's going to be more cost with the loan. That's not it. So when you're doing a flip loan, you'll usually have points you pay. Even with a bank, especially with hard money, most likely with private money, you might pay 1 to 4 points. What is that? It's a percentage of your purchase price. So if you're paying 1 point on $200,000, you're paying $2,000. If you're paying 2 points on $200,000, you're paying $4,000. Some lenders will collect that money at the end. Most will not. So even if you're getting a 100% private money loan on this $200,000 house, the lender, they're going to wire in $196,000 because they're lending you $200,000, but they're deducting the 2 points you owe them right off the bat. So you still have to bring that as cash to closing to pay for the property. Again, some might defer it to the end, but for hard money, most private money, most banks, you're going to have to pay that in the beginning. So you will need some skin in the game on top of the down payment you have. Now, so that's your points. You're going to have interest too. So again, some lenders might let you defer it to the very end so you're not paying it every month. Most won't. Most banks, most hard money, most private money will want you paying that interest every month. So what is the interest rate? It could be 8, it could be 10, it could be 12. We'll say it's 10 to make things easier. Flip loans are expensive. Banks might be cheaper, but you have a higher down payment. So you have your $200,000 loan times 10%, that's an easy one, $20,000 a year, you are paying an interest, and you're probably paying it every month. If it takes us 6 months, remember we talked about the 6 months up here? That's an easy one. You're paying $10,000 in interest right there while you own this flip. Now you don't have to have it up front, but every month you're doling out that payment. It's not, you can't just skip those payments. So that's another, just $14,000 in cash you'll need from the loan right there. All right, repairs. That's something else to think about. Now, as I'm going through these pretty quick and pretty fast, I have videos that go into almost all this, finding contractors, costs of repairs, costs of hard money loans, how they work, private money loans. I also have my complete before and after flips that show you all of these costs together and what we do in the real world on a real flip. So go to our complete before and after playlist if you want to see those properties and see how the costs are set out. If you want more information on each of these topics, like I said, just search my channel. I'll try to link to as many as I can below because I can't go through every single thing on flipping in this video or it would be 5 hours long. Now, repairs, let's say you're spending $30,000 in repairs. Again, it could be $20,000, it could be $50,000, it could be $70,000, depends on the property. Now, most contractors they're going to want some money up front. They might want some money in the middle. They might want some money at the end. What we do is we pay 25% up front, 25% at the halfway point, and the rest of it at the very end. Other contractors do things different, other investors. So we're having to pay, was that 6? No, it's not that much. Anyway, we won't do math right now. We'll pay 25% up front, then we'll pay that. So eventually, in the first 2 or 3 months of having this flip, we're going to dole out $30,000 in cash for those repairs. But there are some ways to reduce those costs. If you're doing hard money, some private money, maybe a few bank loans, will lend you repair money. But I have one private money lender who gives me all the money up front. Hard money lenders rarely, if ever, do that. What they'll do is a draw process. So you spend $10,000 on repairs. You pay the hard money lender a $200 inspection fee. They send a dude out. He looks at the house, says, okay, yeah, you did $10,000 repairs. Then the hard money lender says, okay, we'll give you this $10,000 now. But you may have already had to pay the contractor. Then you're getting reimbursed. So it's not like the hard money lender is just paying out directly. You don't need that cash. There's a good chance you'll need cash to help cover part of the repairs, some of the repairs, or all of the repairs, even with loans that help you pay for those repairs. Along the way, there will always be extra costs too. So we mentioned some of the selling costs before. Usually you can deduct those from your proceeds, which means if you're selling the house for $250,000, you're paying off your loan of $200 or whatever it is. Hopefully those aren't your numbers. Those are horrible numbers. But the extra cash you have getting back at closing, the title company or the attorney will pay the lender back. They'll pay the commissions for the agents. They'll pay some of the taxes. If you haven't paid them yet directly, they'll pay the taxes from there. They might pay the water bill. Some of those costs you'd have normally. Some of those get paid from proceeds, but not all of them. So you still might have an ILC, which is an improvement location certificate, a survey, some other costs you have to pay as a seller for selling costs. You might have permit fees when you're getting the work done, if you're not including that in your repair costs. There's could be some code violations that come up. You never know. There's always extra fees, that again could be 1% to 3% depending on how bad it is, what happens. There's always extra repair costs. You just have to assume, there will be like $5,000 to $10,000 more in costs than you think there will be when you're flipping a house. All right, now we're going to add all these up, and I hope it's not too shocking to you how much it can be to flip a house. Again, it's a $200,000 house. If you're doing it for $100,000, maybe you can cut these in half. If you're doing it for $400,000 purchase, maybe you're doubling them. Plus your repairs might be more. There's a lot of variables, but these are some basic numbers. Repairs, we're saying $30,000 down payment, $20,000. We're assuming you use like a 10% down hard money loan. Loan fees, $14,000 including interest and points. Carrying costs, $5,000, property taxes, utilities, maintenance, insurance, buying costs. You might have an inspection in there, appraisal, more loan costs, $3,000, and miscellaneous stuff we don't know, $5,000. What's that add up to? Eek, $78,000. That's kind of crazy. And I know it's going to be very shocking to a lot of people, but you can reduce this money, right? If you use private money with 100% down, maybe your down payment's 0. That's what we've done before. We use a lot of private money like that. If you're doing hard money, maybe you're only shelling out $10,000 at a time. You can reduce that by $20,000. Loan fees, if you can manage to negotiate loan fees paid at the end, maybe those come out of your proceeds. That's 0 here. Carrying costs, you're going to have to pay those. Buying costs, you're going to have to pay those. Miscellaneous, you're going to have to pay those. So even getting things down to the bare minimum, right? You're probably safely to flip a house like this, you're going to need $30,000 plus. Bare minimum to be safe doing that with the very lowest amount of down payment you can get. And the other thing to remember is the lower down payment you get, if you start financing repairs, things like that, all of a sudden your loan costs are going to go up because you have a higher loan amount, you've got more fees. It's tricky. So be prepared if you want to get into flipping houses you want to, I mean, you can make a lot of money. It's so much fun. It can be amazing, but it's not easy and it's not cheap, right? A lot of these people say flip houses with no money down. Maybe it's possible if you've got a money partner who will pay for everything and you're doing all the work. It's possible. Maybe if you've got a hard money lender who's like 100% into it for financing, it's possible, but they're also charging you, 16% interest instead of 10 or 8. So you're going to pay for it in the end. So I'm not saying it's impossible to flip houses with no money, but it's extremely, extremely difficult. And to be safe and to not get yourself in trouble and to make a decent amount of money, you really need to have tens of thousands of dollars saved up to flip houses. And I'm sorry if that's a shock or disappointing to a lot of you, but that's the reality of it. Now again, if that's not something you can do, maybe you can partner with somebody, maybe you can join with another investor, learn from them, try and get into the game slowly. There's ways to do it, but just jumping into a flip right away is tricky. Now there's one last thing to think about before we go. There's a great way to flip houses with a lot less money, but a lot of people won't do it. And that's to buy as an owner-occupant flip. What's that mean? You buy a house to live in, you slowly fix it up, and then you sell it. And that can have a lot of advantages. You've got low money down loans for owner-occupants, 3%, sometimes 0% down. You don't have all those interest costs because you'd have to rent someplace and live somewhere anyway. So it's not like a cost that you're paying for your mortgage. You have to pay somewhere else and rent. So that's not as expensive. You're not in this big timetable to sell because you're living there too. Your carrying costs aren't as much because, again, if you weren't living in this flip, you'd probably be paying those costs in the form of rent or living somewhere else, another house you own. And the repairs, you might be able to do some of the repairs yourself. I highly discourage that if you're not living in the property and you don't know what you're doing. But if you're living there, you can do some of the repairs with your family. Take your time. It's not a big push. That can be a way to save money as well. And then something really cool when you do this low money down owner-occupant flip, if you live there 2 out of 5 years, don't use it as a business, don't rent it out, always check with your accountant for specific details, it can be tax-free up to $250,000 or $500,000, not tax-deferred. You don't have to exchange it. Literally in the United States, that profit can be tax-free. So instead of paying 30% taxes on your profit or whatever your normal income rate is, 0, nothing. The power of an owner-occupant flip. So if you really, really want to flip houses, don't have a lot of money, want to get started, this is a great option to do it if you're not going the partner route. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. Really appreciate it. We have many more videos, like I said, our other playlists for house flips we're working on. One's completed, before and afters, rental properties, advice videos. I encourage you to check those out. We have a ton of information on InvestFourMore.com as well. A free book that goes over how I got started, how I built millions and millions of dollars of real estate portfolio up. I have 9 books on Amazon as well. A lot of different stuff going on. So if you guys enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate if you hit the like button. That helps us out a lot. Thanks us, yeah. And I love seeing comments as well. And if you share your videos, if you share our videos, you're awesome. Thanks a lot.